Look at what I just brought home from the store. Have you ever seen a power pack this dirty? And here's the interesting thing. The pouch with all the air compressor accessories is still here. The charge, these goofy charged ports that always break on these Schumachers, it seems to be intact. And look how shiny the copper is on these alligator clips. I don't think this thing was ever used. Not used that much anyways. So there's a very good chance, based on its condition, that the only thing we're going to find wrong with this is a dead battery. Now, somewhere on here, one of these switches allows you to check the battery condition. This one? It says we're at 93%. How's that possible? Well, let's get it blown off and take it in the shop, see if we can find anything wrong with this. Well, that's not working. I guess we'll have to get out the paintbrush. Well, that's a lot better. Okay, we've got it back in the shop now, and we're about to check it out. Now, the instruments we're going to use a multimeter, but I know a lot of viewers have never used a multimeter. They're reluctant to buy one and they've never been taught to use it, so we can also use 3 plugins. This is a little AC plug-in, we'll use that to test the AC. Here's a little USB plug-in, we'll use that to test the USB. And here's a little 12 volt DC plug-in. So these are all very inexpensive. We'll see how we make out. Now the first thing I think I'm going to do is get rid of this. Another reason I think this might never have been used. Who would have left this on there? Alright, so I've got an AC cable plugged in back here, and this is to see if it will take a charge. It's kind of flaky the way this goes together, that's why this is often a failure point. Let's just see if this is charging the battery. So we'll press the little button here. It says we're at 95%. What if we disconnect it? Will it be less? Alright, it's disconnected now. It says 100%. How's that? Well, I've seen that behavior before, so I'm going to guess, since this has gone up since we were cleaning it outside, that it did charge the battery that little bit that it needed. And so, yeah, charger's working, battery is good. The next thing, what about these lights? Do these work? On, off. Obviously they do. Alright, we'll get that off the list. Next, USB. USB and jump cables. I'm going to turn this kind of stiff. There we go. This shows that our battery is at 13.2 volts. Wow, that's like new. Let's check the USB. Now, here's a little USB voltmeter. This goes in at an angle. And according to that, obviously we're not drawing any juice, but we've got 5.06 volts at the charge jack. That's exactly what you would want. So USB is working. It's good. Now, let's check these. This is the one thing, just because our battery says 100%, and it says here we got 13.1 volts, it doesn't mean that we actually have it here on these alligator clips. And for that, we do have to use a multimeter. So I'm going to use my Fluke trusted meter. I know it's extremely accurate. Now remember, when testing the juice on these clips, the wire only comes to one side of the jaw. So let's call this the lower jaw. The upper jaw doesn't have any juice there. So if I touch my probe to the upper jaw, there's no connection. I'm going to get a false reading. It's going to say 0 volts. And the same thing on the positive alligator clip. Juice comes in on this side. That jaw's got no voltage. So we want to make sure we touch the copper that lines up with the wire on both clips. So right now it's the outside edges. Let's see what we get. .9 volts. That's pretty good. We got charge voltage on the alligator clips. Okay, what's next? I guess we should check this blower. blowing up a storm. Same thing with the inflator. It's not enough that it just makes noise. There's got to be air coming out of here. Let me get a balloon to prove this. Okay, let's try that again. Now remember, just because the pump makes noise doesn't mean that it's working. So I'm going to slide this balloon over the hose, try to hold it shut, turn on the pump. Yep, definitely working. And that's how you test it. Okay, what's next? This back in here. This is a nice one too. It's got the metal tire chuck. Unlike the plastic ones that break all the time, these work pretty well. Okay, we saw our gauge light up, air pressure gauge. We know the inflator deflator is working. We know we got voltage back here. Alright, let's test the 12 volt sockets. This should be live all the time. Now, this is a little 12 volt tester. You can also use this in a car. These are very cheap. I think these are only about $3 a piece. Very handy. And what's it say? It says we have 12.4 volts on that socket. That's pretty good. 12.7. I saw inside that the contacts on this socket don't really mate very well, but there you go. Maybe it's just needs to be twisted, get some corrosion off of it. They work. Let's try the other one. Same thing, 12.8. Well, only one thing left to test now. That would be the inverter. Let's see how that works. Maybe this is our lucky day. That would be a miracle. Plug this little tester in here. Should tell us if it's wired correctly. Should also tell us what the output voltage is. Turn her on. Uh-oh. Now the display up here is reading watts. We're drawing 0 watts. So that tells me that the switch is working. Because if the switch was off, the display would be off. So no watts being drawn. And that's because this is completely dead. There's nothing happening here. We have no voltage. And if I test these outlets, receptacles, correct word for this would be receptacle. If I test these receptacles with my AC voltmeter, I show 0 volts. So the inverter is not working. Maybe that's why it was thrown away. So we got to take it apart and see if we can fix that. Lean it down on this towel. Alright, that should be good. This is a Harbor Freight number 2 Phillips. I really like these. It has a this part is square, so you get a good grip on it. You can even put a socket here on the top. And the tip, it actually grabs the screws better than a lot of my Craftsman screwdrivers. I don't know what they did differently, but it's not, maybe it's the grip, I don't know. I do much better with this one, and these were cheap. Pittsburgh. When the screws come out, It's important to note the length of the screws. These so far have all been the same, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you'd be surprised you might have a door like this with 2 or 3 different lengths. So you want to notice that. Make sure that when you're putting it back together, if they're different lengths, you get them in the right spots. But lucky for me, these so far have been all the same. This one down here. Okay, total of that should be it. Still putting up a fight though. Persuader, stiff blade putty knife. Stiff blade, very important. Rounded edges so that we're not digging into anything. There's more. All right, let's get this bottom off. That's what it is, maybe. It's this thing. See what size these screws are. Okay, they're also the same. Couple more here on the front. So we have a battery door, but so far we're taking out 9 screws to open it. All the same length. And then the door falls out when we do that. That's different. I was expecting a much larger battery. Well, here's the inverter. So we don't have to remove the battery to examine the inverter. And right there, on top of that transformer, right there, we have a 25 amp yellow fuse. And that fuse appears to be blown. Now, why did the fuse blow? Did the previous owner draw too much current? Is there something else wrong? And the next question, is that a plug-in fuse or a solder-in fuse? Let's see if we can get a hand in there and find out. Oh, it seems to be plug-in, it's moving. Oh, not easy. I have moved it though. Try something else. Some curved hemostats. Will this work? Yes, we got it. Okay, 25 amp. The fuse wire is broken. All right, let's see if we have one of these. Apparently, we've got 10 of them. Harbor Freight 60-piece automotive blade fuse assortment. And here's the difference between the blown fuse and the replacement fuse. Look at those fuse wires. Look at that one broken right there in the middle, and this one intact in the middle. All right, let's see if we can get it in. Well, I give. I've tried and tried and tried. You can kind of feel it, but I just can't get it. So I'm going to take this back off. Kind of failed. My hands aren't that big. I mean, really, they're not big at all. I just can't get in there. Can't get it. Maybe someone with much smaller hands, maybe a young person with more agile hands. I don't know. Well, we'll see how hard this is. Now that is a long screw from the second one up. And even though you have a battery door here, unless I'm mistaken, you're not changing that battery unless you get this back cover off. We don't need to change the battery, but just a point of interest. I don't see how that's coming out without taking this back cover off. Okay, two long ones. Wow, what's that? Spider webs. Another long one. Another long one. Right. So far, these 8 cabinet screws have all been the same. I expect these across the top to be smaller. We have 3 up here. Oh, we've got 2 more here too. What are these going to be? Now these are short silvers up top to the left of and right of the handle. 3 short blacks in the handle. Now it's important to say things like this to yourself, especially if some time is going to go by before you put this back together. I know I would forget. I see it all the time. I get stuff in all the time. Screws are in all the wrong places and the threads are stripped out. So long silvers, short blacks. All right, is this going to pull apart? Yes. Can we get in there now? I dropped my fuse in here. Guess we'll have to go find it. The fuse sockets are right here. I should be able to get to them now, but man, could you hide it any better? Could you hide it any better than you have? Not coming out on the camera, and imagine how it is in person, just as difficult. But it's back here. Okay, it is in right there. Right here. And it sparked when I put it in. It's not blown though. And while we have this apart, I thought we would look at this battery. We don't need to replace it, but the part number on the battery, I'm going to verify this. It's a WP12 -128T. WP12-128T. Obviously Schumacher would be the OEM. It says 12 volt, 12 amp hour / 20 hour. Okay, let's get the thing back together, or at least stood upright, see if it works. Okay, I've only got 2 screws holding this together. Let's see if anything works. Well, battery says 96%. Light still works. What do you think? Place this in. Last time we were completely dead. Is it going to work? Place your bets. Look, my lucky day. We've got 110 volts. We're not drawing any watts because it's just a little voltmeter. I would say it's fixed. Let me get a light. We'll plug a light in there. Yeah, light works. We're drawing 2 watts, 3 watts. So I think I'll take the time here to explain something that people haven't quite figured out. With new LED bulbs, so this has a 200 watt capacity. Let's divide 200 watts by 5. We could light 40 lamps right off of this. It's just a typical LED bulb, 5 watts apparently. Do you have 40 lamps in your house? I don't know, mine we maybe have a dozen. So in the event of a long-term power failure with extension cords, you could pretty much light up your whole house with this. And not only that, but by using these sockets and a single solar panel, even on a cloudy day, you would put all of the energy drawn at night. You'd put it all back into this battery with just a couple of hours of daylight. And I've proven that many times. So I've heard a lot of people say, oh, 200 watt inverter, there's nothing you can do with it. I think when you light up your entire house, that's pretty good. For more info on how to do this, just watch the Backup Power Project, Episode 9, Off-Grid Lighting Upgrade. What about the economics of repair and return to service versus recycle and replace with new? In other words, wouldn't it just be better to throw it away and buy a new one? Well, I bought a package of 60 fuses from Arbor Freight for $9.99. Now we used 1 fuse in this repair. So if we do the math and we divide $9.99 by 60 fuses, that comes out to less than 17 cents a fuse. Now, according to Amazon, late August 2025, a brand new Schumacher, same model, SJ1332, happens to be on sale, $169.99. Let's do that math. $169.99 minus 17 cents. By repairing the unit, we saved $169.78. Okay, what about the environmental impact? Well, according to the Schumacher Owner's Manual, this model weighs 23.9 pounds. So they would round that off to 24 pounds. Now, recycling in my town is handled by this company. They send trucks to the transfer station to pick up the equipment that people drop off, and they take it back to their facility to be broken down and recycled. Now, that truck costs money to operate. The drivers are getting salaries. They're salaried employees. And the people who work in this facility, they're also getting salaries and benefits and health care. And it costs money to keep that facility open. So one guy is going to have to disassemble this portable power pack, pretty much the same as what we did here. That guy's getting paid. He's separating the plastic from the metal and taking the battery aside. Then the battery goes to a battery recycling section, probably handled in-house. The plastic goes to a plastic, that's another section, probably handled in-house, where they either shred the plastic or burn it. The metal, that is eventually going to end up in some sort of a furnace to be melted and separated. So just imagine how many people are involved, how many trucks are involved. It costs money to recycle stuff. Now, whether this company charges the town by the piece or by the pound, I really don't know. Let's compare that to the fuse. I'm going to turn on my scale. We're on ounces. We'll zero it. Okay, zeroed. All right, going to put that on there. We get 0.05 ounces. Try again. 0.05 ounces. That's 1/20th of 1 ounce. Quite the difference. Now, what's the environmental impact in ounces of recycling this 24-pound portable power pack? Well, there are 16 ounces in a pound, so when we multiply 16 by 24, that gives us 384 ounces of electronic waste. Now, we know that the fuse only weighed 1/20th of an ounce. That would be 0.05 ounces. So when we divide 384 ounces of electronic waste by 0.05, we discover that the environmental impact of recycling just the fuse is 7,680 times less than recycling the entire power pack. I hope you'll think about that the next time you throw away a perfectly repairable, lovely appliance like this one. That was the whole purpose of this video, to get people to think about what they're doing. So I hope this helps someone. Thanks for thinking. So here's a little bonus footage for people who've been following portable power pack repair secrets. So we've got our little mini scope on the inverter output, and you can see the typical modified sine wave. And here's the fan that we've had so much trouble operating on other equipment, and I'm sure you can hear it blowing up a storm, and you can see the blades turning. Now, according to the Schumacher power pack, we're drawing 29 watts. Let's see where the setting is here. Okay, that was the high setting. I've just switched it to low. On low we're drawing 18 watts. That's between the scope and the fan. The blades are really turning. Here, I'll go back to high. So we're having no trouble running this fan. And there's your watts, 29.